What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at Data Dash, and today is November 25th of 2017. Well, folks, as you all keep up with the channel, you know that once a week I recap on all the trending price action, news, and topics related to cryptocurrencies. And today we've got a lot to recap on, seeing as I've been gone for a few days. So, first and foremost, we're going to be taking a look at Bitcoin. A lot of you are curious about my opinion on the big even of 10,000. Are we going to see some resistance, or are we going to break right through it with futures? I'm going to be talking about that throughout the video, as well as talking about overall market valuations. As you all are probably aware, if you've been keeping up with cryptocurrencies, not only has Bitcoin been on an absolute rally, altcoins have been killing it over the past week and a half to 2 weeks. So we're going to be talking about the altcoin rally, the third wave of 2017, and talk about whether or not this can really sustain itself, and if we're going to see some resistance as we go towards the big market valuation of $300 billion. We really aren't that far away, folks. And along with that as well, I've got a few CoinDesk article headlines in relation to South Korean regulation, and Mike Novogratz, a huge investment firm manager, coming out in support of Bitcoin and Ethereum and doubling down on his statements that he thinks Bitcoin's going to 10K. And then answering the ultimate question I know you all are curious about, Nick, we've heard about Bitcoin Gold, we've heard about Bitcoin Cash. What is Bitcoin Diamond? What is this? Is this another fork? Yes, folks, it is, and we're going to be diving into all the different traits and features with it, and I'm going to give you my personal opinion on Bitcoin Diamond. All right, so we got lots to talk about here, guys. We're going to dive into it, so let's go ahead and jump in. So first and foremost, we got to take a look here at Bitcoin, and man, the naysayers continue to be proven wrong. Bitcoin is continuing to kill it. It's making new highs even when it looked like, it was kind of going sideways and setting up for a correction. Continue to go to new highs, so it's pretty crazy. We'll take a look more on a technical side for Bitcoin, but I mean, folks, we have to understand here, each time Bitcoin goes up 4 or 5%, it's adding billions of dollars in valuation now. This isn't when it was down to 1,000 going to $1,100. I mean, this is massive price action we're seeing here on Bitcoin. And it just seems to get more and more exponential as we go up. So again, a lot of people are curious if this has to do with the futures news, and I would not doubt it for a second that it does have to do with the anticipation for institutional money to get involved. But at the end of the day, I definitely want to talk about, my philosophy on the futures. I think that what's going to happen is a lot of the hype is going to come up to 10K before the futures even get released. A lot of it's going to be anticipation on buying Bitcoin, so that when institutional money comes in, it's going to rally it higher. However, it's not only not confirmed that they're going to have the futures ready by December. They've said that that's their estimated date, and they've continued to restate that. However, there has not been any full legal approval from what I've seen on paper that the futures are ready. Then again, they seem to be pretty confident on it. Either way, I think that the hype is drilling this up to 10K before we even get the futures, even if it is mid-December. So what I think is going to happen here is I honestly don't think the futures are going to be a positive narrative at the end of it. Now, why do I think that? Well, because at the end of the day, futures give you the option to not only, go long on something, but also go short. That's something that a lot of people have been kind of restricted on unless they use the right exchange or whatever in regards to trying to short Bitcoin. At 10K, institutional investors are probably not going to be, diving into buying up a ton of Bitcoin futures and hoping for the best. A lot of them are probably going to play short on it because 10K is a huge even, and that's how institutional traders and investors think. They look at the big even numbers, the big resistance levels, and if it happens that those stars align, you could see a pretty strict pullback in Bitcoin, and we might get the 50% market correction that we're looking for. But again, don't want to be a negative Nancy. I have no reason to believe that fully. Just again, have a few different strategies planned in mind. If we get to 10K and the futures come in, again, keep in mind that it might not just be positive. Okay, so have different strategies. Keep alerted during the time period when we're reaching 10K or when the futures are being released, and see how it plays out. Okay, so again, watch those big events. But on the topic of the rally that we've seen, the new highs that we're breaking every single day in valuation, cryptocurrencies are on an absolute run up. This is literally almost on par with the valuation growth. I think actually more than our first rally of the year. I mean, we are just going absolutely exponential here. And this is mostly actually due to altcoins, as we'll take a look at in just a moment. But we're really going steadfast towards the big even of $300 billion in valuation. Question is, can we get past it? Well, We have about, right now, if I'm taking a look here, about $28 billion left. And actually, well, I guess if you add the 800 million, 27 billion, whatever. 27 to $28 billion in valuation left to add onto the market cap of cryptocurrencies to reach 300 billion. Honestly, at the end of the day, folks, I think 300 billion is where you're going to see some of that resistance unless we really start going exponential. And I'm starting to feel like that target I had of 300 billion is kind of gonna have to be put to the side here, because I really think going into 1,000, you're going to see optimism in every corner. You're going to see it in Bitcoin, you're going to see it in altcoins, as you're seeing it right now. But this is really just the beginning steps. I think going into 10K, you're really starting to see a rush of euphoria. And in regards to that, I think altcoins are carrying a lot of that euphoria because altcoins are a little more high risk. And when you see altcoins going up, markets are taking on new risk. It's kind of like when people trade small caps or mid caps in traditional stock markets. They're getting a little more risky. They're buying up the tech companies that aren't making money or anything. So it's all off the hype. It's off the anticipation. And I've started to hear stories, I know I'm not the only one now, where you're starting to hear the people who were not buying Bitcoin at 2,000 or 3,000, and now they're like, okay, I got to get in this Bitcoin thing. They were all they said it's too speculative. They don't understand it, so they don't want to invest in it. And now that it's at almost 9K, they want to buy into it. Human psychology. Most people buy in at the top, sadly. And at the end of the day, that can give you a good sign that, okay, things are getting a little too exuberant. But again, I gotta say, we have just been absolutely benefiting from the rally here. And I think the thing to take away is that sometimes you should start to consider locking in positions. Now, of course, not actual investment advice. You got to make those decisions for yourself, assess your risk profile. But along with that, at the end of the day, folks, keep in mind here, just take a look at this chart. Look at the weekly. We are going exponential in price action. There's absolute exuberance in this market. Exuberance, my favorite term. I mean, really, just look at this. This is very reminiscent of the rally we had in 2013. It's just a little more extended, and we're gaining a lot more price action here. I mean, this is just massive stuff, guys. So again, I think we're working up to the big even. What comes up has to eventually come down in some regard. I love Bitcoin to death, but there has to be healthy corrections, and we're not getting that right now. We haven't gotten it since September, and that's a stretch, seeing as how much we're going up. It usually would be kind of silly to say that we need a serious correction. Now, some people would say, oh, we had a correction here. Yeah, that's true, but it was really only down to the 50-day. We usually have them down to, actually, I forgot to actually here. I got to add the 100-day here. Go here and add the style real quick, get that orange color. So as you can see, if I turn it on real quick, I don't know why the number didn't change. The input, yeah. Okay, well, I guess that's on TradingViews, and I thought it was like going crazy. There we go. Well, it's showing there. Basically, you always see that with every correction, we have a pullback to the 100-day. Oh my God, TradingView's been spamming me with stuff. I'm going to have to find a different trading platform. But at the end of the day, again, we always have corrections down to the 100-day, guys. And I think that that's usually what you see with the traditional 33 to 40% pullback in cryptocurrencies. I think if we get resistance in a strong sell candle at 10,000 for Bitcoin, I think we're not just going to 10,000. I think we're getting a 50% correction. And I think that we're going to come back down wherever we end up getting to 10K. We're going to come down and we're going to touch on this previous resistance level. What tends to be previous resistance becomes support. I know the meme is still alive and well, guys. I didn't forget it when I moved. But basically what you're going to see, I think, is a 50% correction. And you're going to have it come down to 5,000. Just my personal opinion. I think it's very needed, and I don't think it's going to happen overnight. I don't think it's going to flash crash. Maybe you'll have a nice $1,000 to $2,000 sell-off in the first day or two. Really, or okay, maybe not that fast, but maybe 2 or 3 days or so, you might start seeing some really picked up sell action, and then you're going to see it curve down and find support at a big even. And look what ironically is coming up here, an indicator that is used to see if things have had a healthy correction, the 200-day. If that comes in and really comes around this level as the price action starts to curve down around that big even, that would be extremely healthy. That'd be a great position, at least in my opinion, and I know I'm going to be at that time, taking my cash position and adding it into Bitcoin, buying extra Bitcoin, and then buying up cheap altcoins that have been going down with Bitcoin. That's my personal take. again, I can ramble on about it for hours, but I think we're going to be riding into 10K to the futures news. We're not going to be benefiting really from the futures news because it's all cash settled. So again, they're trading and benefiting in cash from the different price fluctuations from Bitcoin. So they're not actually trading the actual asset or the asset or commodity or cryptocurrency in this case in regards to their futures. So next up, Ether BTC. Let's go ahead and take a look here. Ethereum has been killing it over the past few days, and I apologize. I tried to do a market update the other day on my laptop, but for some reason it didn't render properly. And I was calling. The one thing I did say to look out for is this: Ethereum was coming up here to look and see if it could get over that 50-day. And I think the exuberance is starting to come back into not just all altcoins, but especially the market leaders. Ethereum has gained a lot of valuation. I think its USD valuation is almost towards $500. So it's been killing it recently, even with this decline generally from Bitcoin, or comparative to Bitcoin. But what's nice is that we got over this 50-day. This was the indicator I said to look for because we'd seen resistance this time in the past. We saw it up here as well. The 50-day was holding back Ethereum. And now we're back above it. And I think our real next target is to see if it can get over the 100-day here. Not exactly sure if it can. We'll have to see. But at the end of the day, I think the longs have really been benefiting from this. I think the thing to look out for is to really see if this is going to correct, possibly come down, find support on the 50 days. It starts to curve up. And then you'll have your opportunity, if it finds support there, to buy a dip and then trade to $100. So again, keep in mind, I think that's what you want to look for here. I know a lot of people are also curious as well about Bitcoin Cash. What's my opinion? Well, I know a lot of people are talking about Operation Dragon Slayer, and I will try to do a video on that, talking about that as well as a few other big topics in the space. I know there's one I'm going to mention at the end of the market update. But generally, at the end of the day, until we talk about that on a technical sense, really the chart doesn't look all that good here. It was looking very nice. It built its base here, had a strong candle bouncing back up and closing all the sell-off price action there. And then it almost had a little bit of a flag here and continued higher. However, this really is kind of looking like a chart that I wouldn't really want to trade. There's too much volatility going on. There's not a consistent pattern. It was literally looking like it was about to do that, but I think it ran up too quick. And I think people were reminiscent of the past where you had a ridiculous sell-off from the run-up. So again, not too much technical, analysis I can do. There's not much charting patterns. But if you start to see this level out here, I'm noticing that on the hourly, it's holding above the resistance here and what was generally support of the past. If it can hold up here for the next day or so, I might look at this for a trade opportunity. Not a big fan of Bitcoin Cash personally, but again, at the end of the day, I'm taking this in a trader's perspective. I'm not going to be, judgmental in that sense. This does definitely look like there could be an opportunity to trade it. But again, the chart's not looking that pretty and stuff. I think you need to find a decent level of support before I'd want to just get into this. So next up, let's take a look here. I want to take a look here at Dash. Dash was one that really has been still continuing to interest me. So Dash has been taking the spotlight. It actually boosted past Litecoin recently. Crazy stuff. Litecoin's losing its valuation and place in the overall cryptocurrency space. Dash, however, has come out as I really think what Bitcoin Cash is trying to be. I think that on a fundamental sense, Dash is trying to fill in that need. I love, I did my recent video not too long ago on Dash. I love the private send feature. I like how quick their transactions are. Transaction fees are low. And along with that, they've got master nodes as well. So again, I love everything that Dash is doing. It seems really interesting. Not to mention, this followed exactly with what we were looking for, guys. We were talking about, watch Dash and Monero curve along that 50-day, and look what happened. It came down to the 50-day, continued back up. Again, we just got to look for the small indicators, guys. There's no complexities that you need here. You want to see with these kind of dramatic run-ups and corrections, that, if it can catch on to an indicator. And the moving averages are extremely common. So even with not as strong a volume as we saw over here, we've seen a really great run-up over the past few days. And it's provided a great trading opportunity to some people. So again, Dash has been killing it. And just to throw it in there, because I know some of you are upset that it's not the leader anymore, let's go ahead here and take a look. Actually, I'm going to bring up the other Litecoin chart. Let's go ahead here and get Litecoin BTC from Poloniex. There we go. So again, keeping in line with what I talked about last time with Litecoin, we're still seeing, I think, we're going to have a test here of the resistance and see if it can really get over. Remember, guys, we had a head and shoulders in Litecoin. This really could be the descendants comparative to Bitcoin if it can't get above that. That's going to mean really bad news for Litecoin and probably mean that it's going to start losing its ranking position and market dominance over the next few months if it can't get past that. It did get over the 50-day. I'll give it that. That's a good confidence indicator, much like Ethereum did. And you're starting to see that with altcoins in the space. But at the end of the day, if it can't get past that big even of 1 million Satoshis, I can't really get behind Litecoin on a trader's perspective. So again, keep that in mind. Keep a watch on that. And one more thing I guess I'll toss in there. XMR, BTC, Monero. A lot of people have been asking me about Monero as well and seeing if I'm still confident. We're still seeing resistance, not only at the Fibonacci level right here, but along with that, what was previous resistance. Nonetheless, it did have another secondary rally and did what we generally are looking for, was that support on the 50-day, and then it continued upward. So I think that was a good trading opportunity. I'd probably lock in a few up trading profits and stuff if that's what you're, if you're just doing it for a trade rather than a long-term investment. But again, decision's all yours. That's just generally what I would do. One thing I forgot to mention earlier as well, that's another indicator towards the market pullback, is volatility is picking up. And it almost looks like we're kind of, we're making lower hurdles here in the volatility. But I think, with volatility kind of remaining this low for this long of time, you're going to expect probably a spike in volatility eventually, and you're going to see probably a pullback in Bitcoin as well as other cryptocurrencies. But this is a really good indicator you all should use, and you should learn how to use it. I think I might actually do a trading tip video talking about how I would use this in different strategies. But just like the VIX in traditional stock markets, the volatility index for Bitcoin has actually become quite a useful tool here for knowing when corrections might come. All right, so going on to some articles here. South Korea, as we all know, has been the hub of massive institutional money flowing in. I really think personally, from China, as China has hit heavier regulation, a lot of that money has been funneling over to Japan as well as South Korea, as they've been havens of freedom and trading opportunity for cryptocurrencies, and we've seen it in the volume of BitHum. It's been obviously clear that South Korea has been a haven for institutional miners and investors in cryptocurrencies. And what's great is that there is supposedly talks that there's really no plans to regulate Bitcoin trading. At the end of the day, I understand, as much as I complain about, Bitcoin Cash, I think there is manipulation, and I think it's going to lead towards centralized exchanges having regulation if it happens every week. It's nice to hear that regulation isn't completely stepping in. I don't want that to happen in cryptocurrencies. I think a lot of people misinterpreted that when I said it in the video after the Bitcoin Cash debacle and stuff. I do not want regulation of markets, but if that's going to be happening every week, it's going to draw attention, and there's going to be regulation until decentralized exchanges come. But basically, the quote came in from the Korean Times, stating that though we are monitoring the practice of cryptocurrency trading, we don't have plans right now to directly supervise exchanges. Supervision will come only after the legal recognition of digital tokens as a legitimate currency. So you're really not going to see this being taken seriously until, I think, honestly, it's more towards $1 trillion market. Just my opinion, guys. I think that regulation will really start to steep in there, really start to step into the whole space on a global scale when it's $1 trillion market, because that's coming on par with not only, in that case, if there's $1 trillion market cap for cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin's going to be one of the leading world currencies. But along with that as well, you're going to have an entire respected market when it's at $1 trillion valuation, where you have digitalized tokens for a variety of different things. And regulators are going to want to step in, not only in the sense of, monitoring, what these projects are doing, but along with that, how they're being traded, are people paying their taxes, things like that. So I think for now, still, they're not taking it extremely seriously. Financial institutions, I think for the first time, are experiencing competition, and they don't know what to do with it. But speaking about financial institutions and financial players, Mike Novogratz, who worked for Fortress Investment Group, I think that's the official name. I used to keep up with him back in the day when I did stock trading. But Mike Novogratz, who is a billionaire himself, is actually going out and doubling down on his statement on 10K Bitcoin. Again, the big evens I tell you all about. People think in big evens, and they're going to want to chase Bitcoin as it goes towards 10K, as well as when it hits 10K. And sadly, a lot of people, I think, are going to buy at the top. But long story short, Mike Novogratz has been confident both on Bitcoin and Ethereum. And he, he's been also calling for Ethereum to do extremely well. He's given some speeches in the space, and he thinks that there's a lot of positive things happening, especially in the Ethereum ecosystem. The thing that Mike Novogratz has been calling for is that we're experiencing almost .com 2.0, what we've been talking about on the channel for cryptocurrencies. Now, a lot of people would be saying, Nick, stop being so pessimistic and stuff. Blockchain is changing the world. I absolutely agree with you all. I think blockchain is slowly making its steps into the world, and it's really going to revolutionize the way we do things over the next 5 to 10 years. Mike Novogratz said the exact same thing in an interview on Bloomberg the other day. However, what he also said is that we're going through kind of the first kind of bubble of cryptocurrencies. And he's saying that he said multiple times that this is going to be the biggest bubble of our lifetimes. It is going to be massive. And honestly, I don't blame him. I mean, when you're working with digital currencies and anyone can go out and create one, that is kind of an issue for bubbles to happen until you actually get a large user base to have a steady base of adoption. It's pretty early on. But basically what he's been saying is that we're entering in the first bubble, and this is going to be much like the railway bubble that we saw years ago, the .com bubble. It's a technology that is going to have a place in this world, but not until really the next 5 to 10 years when it really develops in the space where everything is operating off blockchain. This on the blockchain, coffee on the blockchain, and data dash on the blockchain. But again, at the end of the day, right now we're really experiencing the hype phase. This is where institutional money's flowing in, and people like Mike Novogratz and stuff, who are traders and investors, they're seeing this opportunity with volatility to make a lot of money. And that is what's, I think, going to happen in the long term. After we have the big pullback in Bitcoin at 5,000, you're going to see an even larger run-up when institutional money gets involved with both futures, and then also I think there's going to be ETFs in the future. I think you're going to have a lot of institutional ways to trade Bitcoin, and it's going to force Bitcoin prices up. So again, very interesting stuff. Alrighty, so on to the topic everyone has literally been like banging their heads over and asking, Nick, what is this? Are we having like forkception? Or are we just having forks within forks within forks? Well, everyone, there has been a new fork called Bitcoin Diamond. So another Bitcoin fork has come into fruition. And Bitcoin Diamond takes an interesting approach, comparative, kind of like how Bitcoin Gold wasn't really caught up with the whole SegWit or increased block size debate. It's something that's kind of out of the norm. It does take on a few of those changes, but Bitcoin Diamond has a few interesting traits to it. Bitcoin Diamond is a version of Bitcoin that has 10 times the supply. So for every individual who has a Bitcoin, you get 10 Bitcoin Diamond. So pretty interesting stuff. They increase the supply, and along with that, there's a few other traits as we'll dive into in here in just a minute. But generally speaking, it's gotten some decent adoption in the sense of a community on Twitter. People are starting to talk about it. Really, a week ago, no one was. But once, a lot of large exchanges, respected ones like Binance and OKX, really started, supplying Bitcoin Diamond to people who had Bitcoin in there. I know I got some on my Binance account. A lot of people got excited for it, and people are curious, about what it entails. And honestly, at the end of the day, right now I think it's measuring these as futures prices. I'm not exactly sure what exchange this is on. So they're just registered as futures. Okay. Well, you have access now to your Bitcoin Diamond on there if you want to trade it. But basically speaking, people will be looking at this and they'd be laughing like, oh my God, $88? That's so pathetic. Like yet another Bitcoin Gold. Well, multiply that by 10. That's $880 because technically you got 10 Bitcoin Diamond for every Bitcoin you originally had. As you can see, the supply is 10x for the max supply. So $880 is quite respectable for a forked currency like this to just come out, and people can actually trade it now. People can buy and sell it. It's not locked up. There wasn't just a massive sell-off. People are actually trading it right now. And I think there's a few reasons for this. It's because out of the other forks, it's at least a little more interesting than other ones in the past. Again, you all know more than anyone, I'm tired of the countless forks. I don't think that Bitcoin Diamond really will take over. There's a lot of fundamental reasons why I don't believe that. The biggest one being, with every other fork, you're going to have a hard time convincing the entire Bitcoin community to switch over to another cryptocurrency. Just the case right now. It's hard to get in communication with those guys. So again, it's a very large community. I don't see really the long-term potential, but I do like that Bitcoin Diamond at least took a very kind of interesting approach. So first off, there's a few different pillars up here. They're trying to bring privacy into it. I think that's interesting. I don't know if Bitcoin, I don't think it really needs a sense of privacy at the end of the day because Bitcoin isn't really going to, I think, really be a privacy-centered coin, but basically they're working on encrypting the amount of balance to protect customers' privacy. So, on your financial freedom and stuff of how much Bitcoin you own, also for security reasons, so you don't draw any eyes. Along with that as well, fast transaction confirmations. Not only have they increased the block size, as we'll talk about in just a minute, but also you have a larger supply of Bitcoin as well, or at least Bitcoin Diamond in this case. And then also the cost to participation threshold. So they're trying to keep the cost low for people to, serve, have a part of the Bitcoin Diamond supply by increasing the supply to 210 million. Makes it a little more accessible for people to get a piece of the action. And by I'm gonna mispronounce that word, decouple. Basically, it's when you're multiplying it by 10. So we're pretty much increasing the supply of Bitcoin by 10, as you can see, 210 million, 21 million. So it's the first fork to actually really change the supply in the sense of a hard fork off Bitcoin. But I love this chart here. They've got a great kind of structure as to what the differences are in the forks. You've got Bitcoin Diamond over here not only having an increased supply, you still can mine it and also claim it if you had previous Bitcoin. But along with that, they have a new mining algorithm that is supporting GPUs. So they're taking the same approach of Bitcoin Gold. They're trying to make it a GPU-based Bitcoin. Same block time. Block size is 8 megabytes. So you have the same as Bitcoin Cash in that regard. Down here, block size is 135 gigabytes, much like Bitcoin Cash. You have 2 weeks for difficulty adjustment. And along with that, you've got max transactions a day of 4.8 million. You have SegWit activated, replay protection, that's good. Estimated, or established, of course, since 2017. And amount encrypted, yes, this is the big thing, the encryption and the privacy. And I think, if you got enough people interested in this, with some kind of fear of like, I need to protect my, my privacy in regards to Bitcoin. Yeah, I mean, there could be a place for it, but I honestly think if people really want that, they could use privacy coins that have been out for quite some time and have wonderful systems of encryption and security. But along with that, again, it's interesting to at least see people trying to improve Bitcoin other ways outside of the, the transaction debate and stuff. So, okay. Anyways, they've got a good amount of exchanges here. I don't think they even have all the exchanges listed here. They don't have Binance and stuff where I got mine on there, but they've got a long list of exchanges that actually support it, and then some wallets as well. And the one thing that I'm just curious about is the team. I'm a little sketched out about this, but at the end of the day, again, anyone can go about going to make these huge forks off Bitcoin. It's just whether or not exchanges really adopt them, and people as a whole really want to participate in it. So at the end of the day and stuff, the website looks kind of gimmicky and stuff. This is what really kind of worries me and stuff, and it makes me think at the end of the day the same thing I said at the beginning. How are you going to get people to adopt this? Almost seems just like free cash you could just sell in the exchange. But again, your opinion. At the end of the day, everyone's got a different one. But I honestly think there needs to be more development with Bitcoin Diamond, and before you have these big launches in forked currencies, my opinion personally. All right, last but not least, something that I'm going to be talking about in the next few days. I don't have enough time. I know I've already rambled on long enough. However, I'm going to be talking about the Tether debacle. A lot of people have been talking about the recent $31 million hack on Tether. And a lot of people are curious about the Bitfinex ties with Tether and a lot of the curiosity in regards to speculation and rumors that there's been, this huge creation of Tether out of practically thin air without the cash to back it up. There's been a lot of talks about that. There's a lot of other topics I want to talk about in the cryptocurrency space over the next few days. So I think this is going to be one of them, alongside some of the other topics we've been generally discussing on the channel. So again, the Tether debacle is something that a lot of people have gotten curious in. I'll be doing a video on that over the next week. I want to make sure to do a little bit of extra research as I've been busy over the past few days, but I have been looking into it, and there's a lot of interesting connections that have gotten me a little more curious than I was back a few months ago. So anyways, that's it for the video, everyone. Thank you all so much for watching. If there's something I didn't cover in the video, please leave a comment down below, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible, or try to cover the topic that you want to see. But anyways, everyone, it feels good to be back. I want to thank you all for the positive feedback on my recent update video. We're going to have much more content coming soon, and everything's going to look a lot more professional, audio-wise, lighting-wise, and decoration-wise in regards to the new studio. But until then, everyone, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Stay tuned.